Close your eyes and rewind to a packed ballroom in St. Andrews. The lights low, the gossip loud, and a young prince quietly slipping into the front row with a ticket he'd had a friend buy on his behalf. A curtain swishes. A brunette strides out in a slinky, almost sheer slip that used to be a skirt. And somewhere in the dark, a future king leans toward his mate and breathes the line that would echo for decades. Wow, Kate's hot. That's the legend. But the truth, say those closest to the couple's early circle, is more deliciously complicated, and it began long before that famous catwalk. The new whisper from royal author circles is that the romance was already bubbling away, hidden under lecture timetables and cafeteria chatter. According to claims in Sean Smith's latest tell-all, William and Kate were quietly an item by the time the Catwalk charity show rolled around in April of that year. The dress was a spark, yes, but the fuse had been lit weeks earlier in the most ordinary way imaginable. 2 first years discovering they could talk about rugby like old teammates and laugh like they'd known each other forever. They'd landed at St. Andrews with the same plan, the same subject, even the same halls. History of art lectures by day, St. Salvator's corridor run-ins by night. Everyone remembers the prince who wanted to be treated like any other student, and the deal struck with the media to give him breathing room after a brief photo call. What they don't remember, because no one saw it clearly at the time, was the way Kate quietly drifted into the prince's set at meals, becoming the one girl at the table of rowdy public school boys who actually kept pace with the banter. From the outside, it was all gap year nostalgia and Freshers' Week awkwardness. She turned bright red and scuttled off the first time they were properly introduced, she later admitted. He'd already noticed her, the prettiest girl at Sally's, according to campus lore, but she was the one person in a sea of Will's mania who seemed unbothered by the fact that a prince had just joined her seminar. This was the same girl who'd ignored the teenage squeals around Marlborough's courts when William arrived for inter-school matches, more interested in perfecting her hockey push than bagging a royal wave. The friendship felt easy. Morning swims at the Old Course Hotel pool, water polo for him, a shared love of skiing for both, and the gentle magnetism of 2 people who liked the same simple things. Long walks in bracing weather, messy kitchens, late-night laughs. When term rolled on, the living arrangements rolled with it. First a shared flat with friends in town, then a farmhouse on the edge of campus where the prince could exhale without a lens watching and Kate could study without a circus. Security doors may have been bomb-proof, and windows bullet-resistant. But inside, it was the soft focus normality both craved. Pasta bubbling on the hob, lectures crammed for at the last minute, and a prince absolutely determined to impress at dinner. He cooked to woo, she later teased. His weapon of choice? Bolognese, the classic move of a student who's secretly hopelessly smitten. They were careful. No hand-holding on the quad, no lingering glances across the Union Bar. Friends later said the affection was there, just not for public consumption. She was loyal, they remembered. He was gregarious. She hated cameras. He bought the round. And then came the moment the rest of the world finally noticed what their circle already knew. The charity catwalk was meant to be glamorous and a little cheeky. It became myth-making. Charlotte Todd's knit skirt was pulled high and worn as a dress, a decision that turned an end-of-term fundraiser into a tabloid origin story. William had tucked himself into the front row with that quietly purchased ticket. Kate sashayed past. The quote landed like a flare in a midnight sky. For years, the narrative hardened, that this was the second when the girl next door became the girl he couldn't look away from. And yet, if the latest accounts are to be believed, it was less lightning bolt and more confirmation, an electric public moment for a romance that had already taken root in private. There were stumbles and red herrings for anyone watching from a distance. Earlier reports insisted they were seeing other people. Gossip columns threw out names, mixed timelines, hinted at a clumsy post-show pass rebuffed at an after-party. The truth drowned in the noise, which suited Buckingham Palace just fine. That carefully negotiated media truce protected a very young man shouldering a very old destiny, and by extension the young woman who'd wandered into his life with a shy smile and a spine of steel. Behind the scenes, the secrecy wasn't perfect. At one family Christmas, a proud mother apparently confided to her brother that her daughter's friendship with the prince was becoming something quieter and more serious. An excited uncle is said to have scribbled a note in a meeting. He suspected he'd just become the uncle of a future queen. The slip was tiny, the kind that happens in families everywhere, but it gives you a feeling for the mood around the couple by the end of that second term. This was heading somewhere. Of course, the dress didn't disappear when the lights went up. It went to auction years later, fetched a small fortune, and became one of those artifacts the culture can't stop circling back to. The designer launched a capsule inspired by the original. Netflix restaged the moment in The Crown with a fresh-faced actress who had to invent a voice and a gait for a young woman the world knew only in flashes. The scene was glamorized, stylized, dramatized, because what else do you do with a memory that refuses to sit still? Back in the real world, William and Kate did what they always do when the spotlight gets too hot. They went home, shut the door, and made supper. They showed up for classes, they learned each other's worst jokes and best habits. He lent on her in the tough patches, including that winter when he questioned whether he should stay at the university at all. She steadied him, friends say, not by swooning over a title, but by listening like a friend who cared about the man, not the myth. Years blur, and the details soften, but the pattern holds. The romance that now anchors the next generation of the monarchy wasn't forged at a balcony or a banquet. It was built in shared kitchens and cheap student flats with armored doors. It was strengthened by swims before breakfast and weekends chasing proper weather on proper hills. It was hidden by design, shielded by a media detente, guarded by friends who didn't leak, and protected by two people who understood early that the only way to survive the noise was to keep the center quiet. If you're searching for a moral in all this, it might be this. The love story everyone thinks started with a runway really started with a conversation. Rugby, of all things, was the key that turned. A shy hello did the rest. The dress made for great TV. The dinners made for a marriage, and perhaps that's why their origin tale keeps its magic even now. The mystery around the timing, the contradictions in the retellings, the way fact and folklore dance around each other, it all adds a glint to a relationship that has always refused to perform on cue. They let us see the highlight reel when it suits the moment. They keep the rushes for themselves. So yes, the catwalk will always have its place in the royal scrapbook. But the real headline sits in the quiet lines in between. A prince who wanted for a while to be treated like everyone else. A girl who didn't faint when he walked into the room. A campus where two lives intersected just long enough to change both forever. The rest is dresses and dinners and decades, and the sense that, from the very beginning, they chose to make the most extraordinary story feel wonderfully, stubbornly ordinary. What do you think, royal watchers? Was the runway the spark, or just the spotlight on a flame already burning? Tell us in the comments, and if you love these deep dives into the myths and moments of the House of Windsor, tap like, hit subscribe, and ring the bell. There are more secrets tucked between those college cobbles than you might think, and we're not done walking them.